Hey, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon. Tarun, I think you're afternoon. I'm still morning. I'm on my second
Yeah,
coffee. I'm here with,
I'm already on my fourth.
you're on your fourth? Oh, that's right. That's good. Good, healthy choice. Yeah. Life
Mhm.
maxing, happy maxing. I think that's what we're doing right now.
Exactly.
I'm here with Tarun, founder of Arcady. I've known, man, I don't even know. It feels like years, but I think it's been like 6 months or a year that I've been watching you guys
Probably more.
build. Every time we chat, I'm just amazed at how fast you guys build, the team, how thoughtful you are. So I'm very grateful that you're joining us today. For those who don't know me, I'm Schwartz, one of the founders of Orita. We build AI customer segmentation for hundreds of brands, and we help them get the absolute most out of their email list, SMS, direct mail. But today we're going to talk about Arcady, your founder journey, what you guys build, retention. Tarun, let me get out of the way and have you
Yeah,
introduce yourself. Give like a proper background, like how'd you get where you are?
absolutely. Yeah. So for those who don't know me, I'm Tarun Kamath, founder and CEO at Arcady Media. We run a pretty serious retention program. So for those of you who don't know what that is, email, SMS, and the life cycle of a customer with most D2C companies. In 2025, I believe we were one of the most recommended agencies by Shopify. 2026, we've been working very, very closely with the platform Klaviyo to deploy a lot of this. What's really interesting is we incorporated the company in January of 2023, completely bootstrapped. Today, we're about a 35-person team with an office in Toronto. Hopefully, that's enough background. But I think what really just drives Arcady right now and our true mission, because I'm sure if you're watching this on LinkedIn, you've seen a bunch of email marketers or things that revolve around retention. But I think the main thing we're really trying to solve for with Arcady is just we do believe email and SMS is so much more of a powerful lever than most people think it is. Everyone treats it like a channel. But recently, over the last 3 years, we've been able to grow pretty quickly because we've been treating it more as a lever to help with things like your cash conversion cycle, short-term liquidity, long-term liquidity, and just genuine business problems, and not just like another marketing channel.
Let's stay there. I'll go back to
Mhm.
the founding story in a minute, but keep going. So like I come into, I'm a $10 million brand, $50 million brand. I've got something real, and I was referred to you guys, probably by us because we love you so much. And you have a discussion with me. Is the first discussion walk me through your retention, or is the first discussion walk me through like the core business fundamentals? Like how do you even start that discussion with the operators?
Yeah, so it's typically two things, right? So when we get started, we try to look at the business model and what makes that business different. Everyone looks at email and SMS sort of as a auxiliary channel where you can start sending to customers. If they didn't convert from ad, they're going to convert from email and SMS. And that's why usually even when people target customers, they do it based off of engagement or who's actually engaging with these emails is who we're going to send to. How we've approached it has been more when a brand comes to us, we try to understand their business model. And there's this really cool formula called the e-commerce growth formula where you can see believe it's like 6 or 7 different variables. And when you look at those variables, there's things like your cash conversion cycle, which essentially is when someone discovers your brand all the way to when someone actually converts. And that is a way more important variable for a furniture store because for most of us, we don't really care about the brand we're buying it from. It's just the product that we saw. And so with the furniture company, typically we're trying to get the customer to convert as fast as possible. Whereas with CPG, let's say we have a client that I believe you guys work with as well, NeuroGum. And when we work with NeuroGum, our biggest blocker or the thing we're always trying to solve for is how do we continue to keep customers for a longer period of time? But NeuroGum, as an example, because they're in CPG, there aren't many variations of the same thing. And so you're not really going to go and buy it somewhere else. And if someone discovers the brand today, we're not really too concerned about the cash conversion cycle, but we're concerned about how do we keep the customer for a lifetime? What sort of feedback do we need to collect in order to ensure that they stay?
So that could be like you're strategically changing what the content is. It could be educational content. It could be getting feedback, like kind of anything. Is that fair? Like just to
Somewhat. I would say the main thing that varies between the business models is how we actually structure a lot of the automations. So because of the variables that we're trying to optimize, if it's something like cash conversion cycle for a furniture company, we'll be a lot more aggressive with net new customers. Whereas with CPG, it might look a little different. For luxury goods, I know we spend a lot more time figuring out how to delay how many times we reach out versus for something that's fast fashion, we're reaching out maybe 3 or 4 times in a day if someone discovers the brand today.
And when you're thinking about reaching out, right, and you're talking from a strategic level, obviously there's email, SMS. Where else are you guys playing? Like, are you looking at every single channel? Are you thinking about remarketing, retargeting? Are you thinking about loyalty and notifications? Like, how do you think about
Yeah,
that
so there's
journey?
quite a bit. I would say email, SMS are probably the main levers that we focus on pulling. Outside of that, I know we play around with push notifications quite a bit. That's been pretty strategic. Companies that would do it really well, like Uber Eats, skip the dishes, and so we try to model off of what a lot of the like delivery apps are doing just because they do an incredible job. But we spend a lot more time primarily in the CRM itself. And so I think one of our biggest focuses this year has been how to really filter down the data we receive on email, SMS, and all these channels that we're marketing from into each individual profile. Because as, again, AI has been evolving really, really quickly, we've probably spent a lot more time on just making sure that we understand where the customer is and who they are, a lot more than what channel we're focusing on reaching out to them with. Primarily because tools like yours and Klaviyo do such a good job at being able to identify who we should send to, or like what channel we should reach out to them on. So we've tried to do a much better job at complementing that and just figuring out, what are the things that these people actually resonate with? Where are we meeting them in their journey? And what do the different touch points need to look like based on where they are right now?
On a high level, is this about giving everybody a personalized journey? Like, I'm not trying
Pretty
to
much. Yeah.
apply too
Yeah.
much. So you've seen this, right? And you guys are building tools. You've seen enough brands.
Mhm.
So I'm not going to hold you to this opinion forever, right? But like right now, where do you think brands are overthinking about personalization, and where do you think they're actually underinvesting? Like, what really matters in the personalization journey if you were to
Oh,
wait?
it's so funny. So this one, it probably, I have a two-part answer to this. I think the first part will be directly an answer, and the second part might maybe something more actionable for anyone who's listening. But for the way that the companies are structured right now, I think the main thing that we've just been seeing is everyone has a bunch of tools and a bunch of different data sources, especially when they're hosted on Shopify. And so it's really incredible to see is that, there are so many different integrations, tech partners that are really enriching the data that a lot of e-commerce companies have. But what tends to also happen is I don't think anyone really sees that in the future, as we start to make more personalized decisions, it's very difficult to make it when there's like 20 cooks in the kitchen, right? Everyone has a different input for what's actually happening. And so one of the things that we have been focusing on the most and just highly recommending is figuring out how do we go ahead and clean a lot of what we say about a customer? Because as of right now, Aaron and Tarun might both have different things to say about a customer. And so as the brand, it's very conflicting because you're kind of like that friend in the middle where you're caught on who do I actually listen to? Right. And then the second part to answer that, and I get to a more actionable thing that we've been seeing. And this one is honestly been one of the most incredible insights has been over the last 3 years that we've been really doing this. I would say the common denominator between the brands who succeed and the brands who don't, and I'm talking like even 9-figure brands have been making this mistake. We recently audited an account and I think there was like 143 active flows. And what was really interesting is a lot of companies to personalize will start to add a lot more activation. So they'll add more triggers, which means more automations. They also figure out how do we actually make our journeys more complex, and they add a lot more automations as well. One thing we've had to really reframe for brands, both 8 and 9-figure companies included, has been because of how many automations they want to add or how deep they want to personalize things, they actually end up doing the opposite. And what was really interesting is even on things like the core automations where you have an abandoned checkout or added to cart or browse abandonment, a lot of these brands aren't even separating their split based off of if it's a net new or a return customer, right? A lot of them are more focused on how do we create different journeys rather than optimizing the ones that see the most traffic. And we believe that, again, a lot of the automation should be structured around the business. And so what our automations typically will look like is if we can create 2 different branches and then really, really isolate and target customers hard based on where they are, we see a much better result. And so a lot of the shift and focus for companies that onboard with us or that we work with has been, are we able to actually find the most high leverage points in customer drop-offs? And then if they are in a certain location, can we isolate them so that they're not receiving anything else? And what also tends to happen there is when the customer is completely isolated in a journey, we can also see what's causing the drop off and how to fix it right away, rather than a customer receiving an email from 15 different flows simultaneously and then not knowing what to do next.
How much when you're working with a brand and you're not just like, hey, let us go build some campaigns for you, right? Like you're obviously going much deeper and much more technical, and you're talking about business strategy. How much of you guys having success with the brand is having buy-in from the CEO, the CMO, the director of data, the director of CRM? How much is like actually having a data-driven client who like actually can understand exactly what you're saying, which is like personalization in and of itself isn't enough. More flows in and of themselves aren't the right strategy, but like actually keep the main thing.
Well, we actually learned this recently because I think we were losing a lot of pitches, even though our main point of contact or when we were doing a proposal, like the actual director was bought in, but the leadership wasn't bought in. I think the only thing we changed and are honestly still learning is just doing things sequentially. So when people come to us, we're trying to take what they believe is the problem and solve that first, and then pivot more to actually showing them the larger picture. We find that I think if we're able to get success within the first 30 to 60 days, then we're able to give them a better roadmap and say, hey, here's all the other wins that you should probably look into as well, which works pretty well for us. But it's also something that's pretty new for our company. So maybe you might be better to answer that than I would.
No, dude, we've had a very similar journey. Our segments have always worked, right? Like we launched 3 years ago. We solved one problem. We stack rank your list on a daily basis, candidly better than anybody else. And stack ranking is fine, but do you use the segments the right way? And do you send more to the people at the top who are really engaged and stop sending to the people at the bottom who are going to buy anyways or who aren't going to click? And the product has always worked extraordinarily well, but the understanding of the impact of the product was like output or outcomes here, like understanding here. And so for 2 years, we've been like marching up. How do we tell the story that's like a very complex machine learning AI story in the way that it's like, oh, you can see it on a slide that you can then print out to hand to your manager, who can hand to her manager, who can hand to her manager. And so we've actually done the same sort of thing, which is we've very much slowed down. And we started with incrementality tests, and we do a 4-month proof of concept with people, literally be like, hey, look, we're going to show you one part of the product and it's going to work. And then we're going to show you another part and it's going to work. And then you're going to understand how to use it. And at the same time for us, and you get this, is like, we work with so many amazing agencies, like where we do what we do. And like, we believe in partnerships in this ecosystem. And so it's like, we spend a ton of time educating others how to use our product. So it's definitely been the same journey, which was like, we were going all in too quickly and not actually helping people like follow the journey.
So who are the customers who actually use the product the best right away? I'm curious. Are they just people who are implementing like one piece of it?
So the people who use it the worst, and this isn't like the worst people, right? But like the people who don't use it well are the people who are gold on some attribution metric. The people who use it the best are the people who are gold on the business fundamentally improving.
Okay.
So what do I mean? I can like go make your Klaviyo attributed value go up by cherry picking a ton of orders, but those orders might have happened independent of the email being sent. So you're grabbing attribution, like robbing Peter to pay Paul, however you want to think about it. Or I could lower your attributed revenue in a channel because that revenue is already going to happen anyways. Save a lot of people, improve your deliverability, right? So like basically like don't annoy somebody today. She doesn't unsubscribe. She's around in 3 months. And over time, give you a healthier list and make a bunch more money. And so a CEO, a good CFO, a CMO who's like actually has control over everything sees that as like, oh, fundamentally we're improving the business. We struggle with the person who's like, hey, I need to make this number go up. And we're like, we could make it go up, but it's going to hurt you. And so like, that's just not how we want to work.
No, that makes a lot of sense because I think that's something that we have to convince customers to do as well.
I think Meta has the same, like every single company has the same thing where it's like, cool, we can do something fundamentally better or just show you a number and you'd be happy. I mean, honestly, it's cost us a lot of business, right?
Yeah.
But I think from like a integrity perspective, like it's the way we want to build. Do you know what I mean? Like we want to at the very least do no harm and ideally help. Talk to me about you guys as an organization. So you are very technical. You started this a couple of years ago and like it scaled very quickly. And now Claude and Cowork and Claude Code and I'm sure 1,000 other things are out there for you. How do you decide if you're going to go solve problems for brands by like building it yourself and building your own software? Where do you like go and use the Klaviyos and the Shopifys? Like, how do you make that decision to tap into the ecosystem?
100%. So I think it's a really good question. Full disclaimer before I get into it. I just want to put out there, I think my team has contributed way more to that than I have.
Look,
but
we know you are useless.
Yeah.
So okay, cool, right?
Definitely. Like I think just for everyone who's watching, if you're going to ask me how I built it, I didn't build any of it. I just gave some direction there. But it's been really interesting, right? Like I think we, to your point, use a lot of the community primarily because even when we started, I think one reason we've grown a lot is because Shopify is the catalyst of a lot of the changes with AI or what you're able to do because they're simply the foundation, right? I believe a lot of the applications that are around Shopify end up kind of being like the structure above the foundation because Shopify is the one who processes all the payments, processes the data. And luckily for us, we're in Toronto. And so we've been at every Shopify Unite .dev and development conference that they have, which has also allowed us to really look at what they plan on doing and anticipating their next moves before we even have to make any changes, right? And so I believe what happened was late 2023, even in 2024, we started to see a lot of the changes that they were starting to make in terms of how they do their data infrastructure, as well as the things that they wanted to introduce as a company. That then snowballed into us also consistently visiting Klaviyo to see what they're doing, because that truly is the tools that we're building off of. And so as both started building, one thing we realized is at the end of the day, they're businesses. And so even if we started as an agency that is supporting Klaviyo services, and now Klaviyo is attempting to automate a lot of the things that we used to do, there's still so many things that are complementary to these businesses, right? Like we can build in a way where we are supporting the development of trying to make things more autonomous, because it actually gives us way more output for the level of input that we provide. And so, based on that thesis, where we didn't really want to compete against these multi-billion-dollar companies on AI ideas, I told my team, hey, look, there's no way we're going to try to build like the next email AI design company, or the next, like plugin for this, because everyone's a part of SaaS now who never used to be a part of SaaS because Cloud Code exists. And so I kind of just told them, like, okay, what are some areas that we can focus on that actually create more of a moat for our customers and give them an edge against their competitors, while making sure that we're complementary and we're actually amplifying the initiatives that Klaviyo and Shopify are pushing. And so that led us to launching quite a few products. Internally, what we do right now, and we don't share this often because I'm not a very public founder, but internally what we do right now is we have a tool called Arcady Intelligence. And essentially what that is every single one of our campaigns that we create for a customer or flows, they come with a purpose or a hypothesis that we have for what it's actually going to achieve in terms of a result. And then that's where the campaign is written. There's Figma docs that are directly correlated to it. And essentially what will happen is we actually have a database or data warehouse per client that we serve. And so all of that data, the initial purpose, the hypothesis, the campaign, gets stored in that warehouse. Then what we have is an AI agent layer, where essentially it'll check how did and this is just using the Klaviyo API and the Shopify API. It's like, how did the campaign that we had an initial hypothesis for perform? Did it actually achieve the purpose of the campaign? And so if in the purpose we say we want to sell this product for Orita, and then we look at the Klaviyo data and it sells a different product, our agent's able to say, well, the campaign performed, but it didn't actually do what the team wanted it to achieve. And so what that allows us to do is build a layer of just understanding what is our team setting out to do and what is the result that it's consistently getting. That then snowballed into something much larger, because we quickly realized that we were also storing things like calls with our clients, the comments and feedback that they were actually giving us. And it became very, very expensive for us to just store all this data. But the benefit we started seeing is now when someone on a company that we work with, let's say it's doing $20 million a year, as the company aggressively grows, another person comes and fills that seat. And so when that person came to fill the seat, we actually had historically like all the data behind what our original point of contact tested, what we tested, all the things that we've already talked about, and what the results were in Klaviyo and Shopify. And so now I can literally go to Slack and say, hey, well, Aaron just got promoted and he's no longer doing email and SMS with our team. What are all the tests we ran, so I can let the next person who's filling Aaron's seat know? And they get an entire digest of all the things we've done, what the results actually were. And this is all purely based off of what our teams wrote down and what the results were on Klaviyo and Shopify. So that's like one of the many tools, but that's been one that's been really interesting.
It's super cool. One of the things, and again, I ran a brand for a decade, and I always caveat, I sent every email to every person. So I was a bad email marketer. I think we had really good content and I wanted you to see it, so I sent it. One of the things I'm always trying to wrap my head around for a good brand owner today is how often should they be testing? And I know you should always be testing, but at some point you're like, cool, this flow works. Do you do it for like the keeping the main things? Do you retest that flow once a quarter? Do you test it before holiday? Is it you're actually always doing like a 10% test? Like, how do you advise companies to do this in a way that's like manageable and not kind of testing for the sake of saying that you're testing?
We test based off of, so we always have this process internally that we call the bottleneck analysis. So we always pitch to our clients the same thing that I pitch to my team members as well. I always tell my team our objective is to be, you can call it smart marketing, but it's also just lazy marketing, where you try to figure out the highest leverage thing to do and then just solve for that. That's always been the way I did things, because I was like, I don't want to go and do everything. Like, I just want to figure out what problems actually matter. And so what our team tries to do before we run any test is what is the actual bottleneck for the business? And that goes back to the business fundamentals thing, which is why we always try to think in frameworks rather than just in cadences. And so when we look at most businesses, I would say the test volume varies per account, but our best practice is always based on where the business is at. What is the actual bottleneck? Sometimes it might be sign up. Sometimes it might be segmentation. It might be churn. And then from there, we test aggressively for that one variable. So we try to think and list down like we're in office, so we'll literally go to a whiteboard, list down everything that would affect that variable, and then figure out, okay, what would be the best test to run for these sets of things that we can test to optimize that one variable. Sorry, that was like a lot of
No, it's
variable
great.
talk.
Look, to me, the like objective of these is, I mean, I'm learning a ton and I want brand owners to learn a ton and like understanding how you think and what you're testing. Your mileage may vary depending on what your brand is and what your capacity is. And you may just not have time, but the frameworks you're leading with are really helpful. So not too much.
Awesome.
It's really good.
I'm curious, what do the best agencies do with you guys? Like how often do they test?
That's a really good question. I think with us, they stop testing. So we think our job is to make it so they don't have to worry about who is engaged on timing. Does that make sense? So 80-20, on any given day, there's a very small amount of people who really want to hear from you as a brand. Marketers send emails when they have something to say. We want to help you understand who's like receptive, who's listening, like who's actually addressable. And so after they understand like our ranking algorithm, it becomes very clear when to use us. And then they get to spend time testing content, what's the program, frequency, right? Like how are you bringing people up? Hey, we've got a sale in 6 weeks. What should we do? And that to me is like, the magic is like, we are the when company, they're the what company. And the idea for like a third-party AI tool to be like, no, this is what your creative should be, or this is without understanding your demand planning, what's coming down the pike, what big sale. You need so much more context on the business to decide what should that content be. And for us, that's what the best agencies are doing. I think the other place obviously is like cross-channel journey. And you kind of mentioned this before, right? But it's Tarun may need an email and 6 texts and a message and some loyalty points and something. And Aaron may need to just be left alone and he'll buy, right? And so like them working cross-channel and making sure there's a consistent story to me is actually like the way harder work and the work that like a machine independently can't do. Like we're an ML team. If there's a big math equation, we're better than anybody at it. If there's not, like that to me is what the best agencies solve.
No, that's perfect. That's perfect. We always tell this analogy, and it's actually one that happened to me where my girlfriend and I, we had our 5-year anniversary on January 3rd. And I was like, for this flower company that I purchased from, I'm probably a VIP customer right away because I spent $250 on a bouquet. And I was like, I don't obviously don't do that often. Whatever, $250. All I care about is the smile on my girlfriend's face. Every single week, and for context, January 3rd, February 14th is probably the next big event, Valentine's Day. Every guy is going to want to buy a massive bouquet for their girlfriend or their wives or their fiancés. And so between our anniversary and Valentine's Day, there's only about 5 weeks. And what was so interesting to me was they sent me an email about like flower care and the seeds and what types of flowers there are. And I check my email every day and I was like, I don't really care. So I'm just going to unsubscribe because the only outcome I'm looking for is for my girlfriend to be happy and seeing a smile on her face and not the types of flowers that I'm purchasing. And it was really interesting. And I thought about this, and obviously this is what Arita solves, but if they just left me alone for a few weeks and then sent me an email during Valentine's Day, I probably would have bought another $250 bouquet. But instead I searched up flowers near me and just bought from the first company that came up.
It's really interesting. And obviously I agree with what you just said. Is like you are a different customer. You had something in your data where you weren't engaging with the next couple of emails. They probably didn't need to keep messaging you. We launched our SMS product. It was in beta for a while and it officially launched a month ago. The take up of that product is so much faster than email because in email, we're like, guys, stop emailing the bottom 40% of your list today. You're not going to miss sales. You're not going to miss clicks. It's going to make the whole system better. And people are like, yeah, well, our CEO wants us to message everybody, right? I want to, because this is what we do, or we have this many credits. With SMS, it's the opposite. People are like, please God, I'm oversending. And the interesting thing is they see that as a cost and they don't understand deliverability or unsubscribes. Like you unsubscribed and they lost a sale. It wasn't because like their deliverability dropped. It's because they could not reach you again. But the SMS people get it because there's a hard dollar cost. And so literally we're doing the same thing with SMS, which is like, stop sending to the bottom, send more to the people at the top, make more money. And people love that. And now I think we need to start with SMS first and then be like, oh, by the way, the same thing happens with email, but it's a much bigger list and you can make much more money if you want to.
What's the average timeline for people to see that? Because like, I think with Zane when we are implementing this is probably, and now I feel like this is just a one-on-one conversation and no one's watching us, but I'm very curious.
My mom
how
might
long does
watch.
Okay, awesome. How long does it actually take to prove success with that, like in terms of revenue? Because I'm sure you
With
could do a
SMS,
projection right away, but I'm
dude,
curious,
with
like,
SMS, it's within a month. And it's like we
oh, wow.
just give a free month to everybody now. Like even existing old customers, I'm just like, just try it. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But
Mhm.
I don't want to pitch somebody. I'm like, you will literally see it in the data.
Yeah.
We stack rank your list on a daily basis, right? For email, weekly basis for SMS because of volume. You don't need to do it more frequently.
Mhm.
And when you do that, you can literally see it. There's a tippy top that wants to hear from you. But the
Mhm.
DB, my co-founder, right, like PhD from neuro from Harvard, yada yada, right? Like the actual he and my other co-founder are the people who actually built everything. I'm not an
Mhm.
ML engineer. I cannot build this stuff. The way he talks about this is it's a frequency and I'm going to screw up. I'm not even going to do a good job, but it's like a frequency distribution problem.
Mhm.
So there are some brands that send an email once a week. There are some brands that send 2 or 3 emails a day, right? Within the bigger the brand is, the more diverse your audience is in terms of their preferences, right? You already know that, right? If you have
Mhm.
one customer, you can go figure out how often to email. But if you have 1 million profiles or 2 million or more, and you will have some people in there who want one email every 6 months or never want to be emailed again. And you will have some people who, when the time is right, they could send 4 or 5 emails a day because they just can't get enough. And you have such a broad product catalog. And you actually need to be able to have that distribution. But what brands do is they limit to boundaries. Somebody clicked in the last 90 days. And like the really stupid examples, if you clicked 15 times the last 90 days and I clicked once, we look exactly the same in that model. Obviously,
Mhm.
that's not true. But the brands that we serve are big brands with hundreds of millions and often billions of data points that we can model out. With SM, that is exactly the same, except for it's spikier, where it's like you will have, your top decile in email might click at 3 or 4%. The next clicks at like 2%, the next 1% in terms of click rate. With SMS, it might be 15 or 20% for the
Mhm.
absolute most engaged. And so you can send a ton there. But where email maybe is like engagement is like this, SMS's engagement is like this.
Mhm.
So within a month, we can show you a ton of revenue in SMS and be like, you're wasting credits, so that's gonna make you money. With email,
Wow.
it takes a couple of months because there's the upfront, we find people who you missed. You did a 90-day engage segment, we found somebody outside of 91 days. You have a big manually suppressed list, you clean your list. There's a ton of gold in there. We're good at finding that. We call it rescued revenue. We found like literally 40 million bucks for brands of like
Mhm.
from dead contacts revenue that they can have. The harder thing and the thing that takes 2 or 3 months is all of the not sends because they're not saving money. But the act of not sending, you don't see the value today.
Mhm.
You don't see the the counterfactual today. You need months for the system to get better. You
Yep.
don't send to the bottom of your list. Your deliverability gets better. Gmail likes you more. You inbox better. You start making money slowly, but it happens. You don't
Yep.
over email somebody. He's around in 6 months to get an abandoned cart flow because he didn't unsubscribe because you didn't annoy him when he wasn't in
Mhm.
market.
Mhm.
And so like email, 3, 4 months. That's how we do our POC there. SMS, super quick.
That's incredible. That's incredible.
I don't
Please
know.
remind me.
It's exhausting. It's taken us so long to figure this out, like how to tell this story. So it's been really fun recently. We've just been growing
And
finally.
so,
Like,
what
yeah,
do you think is the best way to? I mean, everything you described, like when you guys put that in marketing messaging for Arita, I am curious. What does that actually look like? What does the world see?
dude, I don't know. I mean, I think we have like a really good story if you spend time with us.
Mhm.
If you spend 30 minutes and like we were to actually go look at data, I could show you everything. You'd be like, okay, I get it.
Mhm.
If you spend 30 seconds, I don't think you do. I think that's our
Mhm.
biggest challenge. And I
Is
don't
the
think it's we're
elevator
bad
pitch?
storytellers. Like our CMO is amazing. She ran brand marketing and product marketing at Lyft. Like we have an
Yeah.
awesome team. I think it's just complex and we're not willing to like perjure ourselves and lie and like say this will just happen. We're
Mhm.
maybe too technical and too like,
Maybe during
hey,
your next onsite, you guys just everyone has to put together one elevator pitch
you,
for
you,
Arita,
you get
and then
one
you do a
sentence.
group vote.
Yeah, I don't know. I know it. I just, I think it's
I think there's something there.
I'm with you, man. Look, the way that we've gone about it is we've got like 50 or 60 case studies and we are just willing to go slow. And we have
Mhm.
agencies who did not get it and their first customer churned and we chipped away for the next year. And now they refer us to a bunch of customers. And
That's
so for
awesome.
us, it's actually like if we just build great products and we get better at the storytelling part, but we literally just show the data, like within 6 months, your team will be referring us a bunch of deals, not because like I wowed you with some pitch or because I like gave you a revenue share, but because our existence will make your customers more money, which will make you a better, like everything you do will be supercharged.
Mhm.
But I'm not like, you need to see that in data, not me being like, dude, just trust me. Like
Mhm.
we need to earn that trust. And so we go slow because of that.
That's awesome.
You're like tapping into my soul right now. And my team is like, shut up, man. Just like come up with a single pitch and just go, oh, but I don't know. Like, I want to do it right. I don't want to like deceive people. I want them to see the results.
No, that makes sense. That makes sense.
Man, I have so many questions for you. And now I'm like, I don't know where to go. I do want to go back very quickly to the founding.
Yep.
You talked about Shopify. I've known you through the Klaviyo side, but obviously Toronto and what you mentioned, Shopify is the core platform. When you started the business and you said you bootstrapped it, did you know you were building a business? Like, I actually want to talk about you as a founder and you as a leader.
Yeah. I think so candidly, I got into email marketing. I can go way back now. I'm going to try to like really skip some parts of the story just to keep it as fast as possible. But when I think the business itch came in like grade 2. I used to sell a lot of paper airplanes to kids because they didn't know how to make it. And I was like, dang, I can get 25 cents per paper airplane for this. What was really interesting is that day I came home and I had a bunch of quarters and my parents were like, why do you have a bunch of quarters? And I was telling them, I was like, oh, this is me selling paper airplanes in school. Kids paid me quarters for this. They actually took me to the principal and that was my first form of government. Because I was like, oh my God, I can't, why did I tell my parents that I made money in elementary school? It was so funny. And the principal was like, well, you can't be selling these. And that was my first ever business venture because they were just, they shut me down because they're like, oh, kids probably don't know what to do with their quarters. So they're giving it to you. I was like, well, I provided a pretty valuable thing at the time. I was like, it was literally demand back then, demand and supply. But from there, truly, like when I started getting into the online space, I was in middle school, I believe. And I used to play a lot of games like Roblox and CSGO. And what's really interesting about those platforms is they have digital currencies. So what I started to figure out is like, as you look at games with digital currencies, because they're purchasable, you'll find that they have their own mini digital economies. And so what I just started to do is like, as you play games, you're able to collect more things, you're able to trade with other players. And so I got really into trading when I was in like grade 7, I believe. Ended up selling a lot of virtual goods. That's how I made my first few $1,000s. And then I got a bunch of chargebacks and I couldn't prove that it was true because it was a virtual good. And PayPal asked for my ID. And at the time I was like, holy shit, I'm not 18 yet. So I wasn't able to actually prove that I was a human. PayPal, I'm banned for PayPal for life now. But that was pretty interesting. I had like loan or debt collection agencies calling me when I was like 14 years old at the time. And what was really cool after that is I turned, I think 15. This might be 2019 or 2020. And then I started working a job at a casino because it was COVID. It was just the start of COVID, super fresh. And I was like, okay, cool. Let me work a job. The only job I could work with at the time, for those who are familiar with Ontario, it was like completely shut down, was a casino where I walked horses. I made my first few $100, found guy online who was like, oh, like, you should probably learn a digital skill. Started learning email marketing. And then I got into email marketing in 2020. So 2020 to 2023, I honestly was just honing in on the skill. I got really, really obsessed with it. And at the time, everyone still viewed it in a very one-dimensional lens. That's like, I think since 2021, 22 is when I started to really think about, wow, if it can do this with Klaviyo, like imagine all the other things you can do. And I just got really, really obsessed with it. 2023, or 2022, I believe I turned 18. And then 2023 that's why I registered in January of that year. And then that's when it became a real business. And I just knew I needed to bring other people on because I just saw a very, very clear path of opportunity, only because, again, everyone still undervalues it to this day. I still think if I was restarting, I would choose this exact same path because everyone still undervalues it to this day. And there's so much you can do to change how a business works. And I think it's only going to continue to get better.
That's super cool, man. I'm sorry about PayPal. If you ever, I don't know. Can you like go to Venmo or anybody else in the PayPal family?
No, I'm happy. I'm with, I'm just Wise now. I think Wise is my alternative for PayPal now.
That's really funny. Maybe the last topic I'd love to talk about is like customer journey stuff, right? Because you're obviously working with so many big, impressive brands, right? And you're figuring things out. You're kind of like sitting at the vanguard of what the best companies are doing. Is there anything that you're observing on the consumer side, like behavior changes, what their expectations are, that if you don't have to like put a stake in the ground of this is what it is, but anything like that you're starting to see inklings of that's giving you some thoughts about how you might want to change the brand, what a brand story is, or what tools that you
I mean, I think right now the landscape is more competitive than it ever has been, and every consumer expects significantly more than they ever have. What's really interesting is if you look at it on a macro level, there's a lot of companies that are evaluated at these enormous prices, and so naturally they're just starting to get the best talent. And I've just seen a massive shift in how companies are operating overall, right? Like everyone's starting to use a lot more AI. But with consumer brands specifically, I think one of the things that we've noticed is a lot of the audiences, similar to what Orita is solving for right now, just require a lot more personalization. People are very quick to unsubscribe. People are very quick to not purchase products. And they also have significantly more options. Every single e-commerce company right now has a competitor out there versus a few years ago when maybe you could be really, really unique just by standing out. And all the e-commerce companies are much, much more heavy on being as omni-channel as possible. But that goes back to what I was telling you earlier, where data just matters so much more. And so I'd say the most interesting things that we've been seeing is, and transparently, it's been things that we've been developing as well. Earlier this year, we released the first agentic tool on Klaviyo's app platform. And it was essentially just from a hackathon that we won in September of last year by Stripe, Lovable, and Klaviyo. And so essentially, our idea during that hackathon was just Shopify has so much data. Why don't we start making custom emails based off of the Shopify session data? And so if Aaron spends 5 minutes on a product page, we don't need to actually send him any incentive. And instead of, telling him about all the other things he looked at, we'll tell him about the product he spent the most time on. And so what was really interesting is we started deploying this for a lot of our clients, and it's made it significantly easier, I would say, to be competitive because of the amount of data that Shopify is just passing. And so as of right now, we're kind of in this era where AI is so accessible and it's pretty cheap right now compared to what it could be, specifically because so many people are investing in AI companies. And so these models are making it very easy for us to then go and analyze things like Shopify session data and be the first brands putting out very custom to you emails. If you were to blog and then you looked at a product, we're relating the blog and the product to you one-on-one, and no email looks the same to other customers. The other thing is, like, you also have to be very cost efficient and effective with this. So even for us, like, I think we pay quite a lot to run this operation, even though we still believe it's the cheapest it'll be right now. But at the same time, we get very outsized returns because there aren't many brands doing it. And so I think it's cool because if you have an idea, you're able to implement it. A lot of these brands have some of the smartest people that we get to work with, and they're able to identify and spot these ideas and move on it quickly. But I would say the only difference between the winners and the losers right now have been their level of agility. I think our company has only done really well, and age used to be a big factor for, like, you need the wisdom to actually achieve things. But now when you look at companies raising capital and their AI companies, a lot of the people are in their 20s. Founders are in like their 20s or 30s, launching massive companies, like we saw what happened with Cursor. And I think the only thing with that is younger people just tend to have, and there's a lot of older people who have this too, but younger people just tend to have the agility to move, pivot as fast as possible based off of what they're seeing. And there's no level of like pattern recognition for, well, that didn't work in the past, right? And so I think not having that allows us to think of ideas and just say, hey, why don't we try it out? And if it works, it works.
I loved everything you just shared. Dude, I got to find more time with you. I know you probably
yeah, let's do it. We'll book another call.
This is so much fun. Thank you. I'm really hopeful that I can make it to, I don't even know what it's called anymore, .dev. I wanted to call it Editions, and I really wanted to call it Unite, but I think it's .dev now.
Please do. I think we're moving into a new office August 1 too. So if you plan on coming after August, we can show you around.
I'll have to make an excuse. I'm sure I'll see you at plenty of other locations as well.
Lovely.
Tarun, thanks, man. Is there anything else that you wanted to share? We got a couple minutes left. I mean, I want you to share where people can find you, like how you guys work with brands, obviously, but any other takeaways or insights?
Honestly, I think the only thing that would be very helpful is I'm a very technical person. I would say, like, typically when we solve our problems, we kind of just try to think of it from like, what's the problem? What's the solution? And very much like Orita, we believe we have amazing products and we're very product driven. The one thing that's led us to, in terms of like a deficit, is we're not big on investing in marketing. But we also believe that recently this year, we were like, oh, maybe it is a disservice to not let brands know about all these cool solutions that we're coming out with, as well as things that they should be implementing outside of just working with us. And so I'd be very curious for anyone who's actually listened all the way through, if you can message me. My LinkedIn is Tarun Kamath. On Instagram, it's Tarun. So it's very, very easy to reach me. I'd just be curious to hear about what people want to actually hear about more, because I'm not a big believer in putting out content just to put it out there. I think I'd love to actually make sure we're serving a purpose when we try to put things out onto like LinkedIn and spend time actually doing some level of marketing.
Yeah. Thanks, man. I really appreciate you making the time, and strong recommendation for everybody to reach out. And obviously I can put you in touch as well. Tarun, thanks for your time. This was really fun.
No, this was awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
I'm Aaron Schwartz, co-founder of Orita.ai, where we help hundreds of brands like Spanx, Faraday, and Salt and Stone get the absolute most out of their customer lists. Learn more at Orita.ai or check out my interviews with the founders of Klaviyo, Birdies, Caraway, and plenty more wherever you get your podcasts.